How's it going, everyone? It's Gadgets Boy. Welcome to another video. And Samsung just announced 3 new devices, the Samsung Galaxy S20 range. And in this video, we're going to give you a rundown of everything that you need to know. And my first impressions perhaps tell you what you should go for, which one you should go for if you're thinking of getting a new Samsung Galaxy S20. Let's check it out. Samsung just announced 3 new devices, the Samsung Galaxy S20, S20 Plus, and the S20 Ultra. All devices have 5G, and in the UK will come with the Exynos 990 processor chip, so the latest Exynos processor. Something also coming with all of them is a Quad HD Plus 20:9 display with 120Hz refresh rate, HDR10 Plus certification, and 240Hz touch response, which means when gaming you get a smooth experience. They can also shoot 4K at 60 frames per second and 8K at 30 frames per second. On all devices, Samsung also opted for the latest LPDDR5, which means you should see some improvements when it comes to memory management, multitasking, and running multiple applications simultaneously. The S20 is the smallest of all 3 of them, and I suspect Samsung will sell a lot of these. It comes with a 6.2-inch Infinity O display, and you can get an option for 128GB storage with 12GB of RAM, or 128GB of storage with 8GB of RAM. On the back, you get triple camera setup, so you get a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with f2.2 aperture. You got a standard wide angle lens, which is also 12 megapixel, but with f1.8 aperture and optical image stabilization. And you have a 64 megapixel telephoto lens at f2.2 with OIS as well. That zoom lens on the S20 can do 30 times hybrid zoom. On the front, you get 10 megapixel lens with f2.2 aperture, and the S20 has a 4000 mAh battery, which should last you all day. The S20 Plus comes with a slightly bigger 6.7-inch Quad HD Plus Infinity O display, and only available with 128GB of storage and 12GB of RAM configuration, which again you can expand if you need to. On the camera, you have a 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide angle camera. You got 12 megapixel f1.8 wide angle with OIS, and a 64 megapixel telephoto lens with f2.0 and OIS, and a depth vision sensor as well. On the front is a 10 megapixel shooter with f2.2 aperture. Like the Ultra, you have a space zoom, which basically means you get hybrid optic zoom up to 3 times, and a super res zoom, which is up to 30 times as well. For battery, you get a 4500 mAh all-day battery, which should last you again more than all day if you really use it on a normal average usage. Onto the biggest one, which is the main one. The S20 Ultra is what I suspect will be aimed at power users. It has a huge 5000 mAh battery in there with, it supports 45 watts of charging as well, so fast charging. So you can charge to 100% in just over an hour. You have 6.9-inch Quad HD Plus display, Infinity O of course, and all of them are dynamic AMOLED display as well. This is available in 128GB with 12GB of RAM configuration, or a 512GB storage with 16GB RAM configuration, which is huge. And you can still expand the storage here as well, again with up to 1TB micro SD card. It's IP68 water and dust resistant, all of them are, by the way. And you got 120Hz display, which also supports HDR10 Plus. The quad camera configuration on the back consists of a 12 megapixel ultra wide with f2.2 aperture, a whopping 108 megapixel wide with f1.8 aperture and OIS. You have a 48 megapixel telephoto lens with f3.5 aperture, and a depth vision sensor. Just like the S20 Plus, you also get space zoom, which is a hybrid optic zoom up to 10 times on this one, and a super res zoom at 100 times. It's ridiculous. On the front is a 40 megapixel f2.2 and a 10 megapixel sensor, so you get that ultra wide angle front facing selfie shots if you want to get more people in, which is also useful for Google Duo if you're doing video calling. The Ultra can also shoot 8K video, but what's amazing is that you can go back into that 8K video and grab a 33 megapixel still from it, so not a screenshot in this scenario. So basically you're getting a high resolution stills from your video. From all the hardware and software upgrades, night mode should be better compared to the S10, and you'll even be able to shoot night hyperlapse videos, which looks amazing. What's also awesome is you now have Pro mode in video, so you can adjust aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and even change things like highlights, temperature, and more. Back to that new single take mode, which is actually quite interesting. You'll be able to use all those camera lenses to capture a bunch of content at the same time, of which you can then get creative with, depending on what you want to do. This helps you to capture more content without having to worry about what you want to achieve in the moment. You can also capture a super high-res 108 megapixel images, and this is achieved using the Nano binding or remosaic, meaning it captures 9 12 megapixel shots and binds them together to make a larger file at hardware level. It's great for those landscape photos, so if you're a landscape photographer like me sometimes, at a glance, you can just take a nice, big, large image, and then you can edit it afterwards, depending on what you want to do. At a glance, it's very quick in processing images as well, which is something I was worried about initially, but it's very quick. First impressions, the camera bump, I'm not a big fan of on all the devices, but if you get a case, then it then goes flat, so you'll be able to hide it, sort of. The display on all three devices are amazing. It's actually really beautiful to look at. 8K video capture with the ability to grab a 33 megapixel still on the Ultra is amazing, though that's more of a pro user feature, I would assume. The battery capacity is very much welcome on the Ultra, although we need a real life test to see how that works. We all know what happens with Exynos devices when it comes to battery consumption. If you want the latest Samsung devices and a crazy zoom is not your thing, then the S20 is absolutely fine. The size is compact enough. If you want the best of both worlds, then you get the Plus, and if you want a pro user feature like me, then you go for the Ultra. And I actually really like that all of them are 5G ready.
So Samsung has finally sent out invites for its Unpacked events in San Francisco. Of course, we'll be there. This, we presume, is for the Galaxy S20 line. Now you're wondering, why the S20 and not the S11? Because we had an S10 last year. Well, simply because Samsung decided it's a new decade, so we're going to the 20s, and also to showcase the jump this devices will have. Now in this video, I'll be talking mostly about the Galaxy S20 Ultra, and the Ultra is kind of a different naming nomenclature compared to what we had last year. So for reference, the S10e will be the S20, the S10 will be the S20 Plus, and the S10 Plus will be the S20 Ultra. And that's the device I want to focus on. The S20 Ultra looks like a behemoth of a device, and it's got a lot packed into it. Now, this dropped in earlier today from Max from XDA, stating some things that he's found about this device. It says the S20 Ultra 5G, talking about the 5G variant, will keep an SD card slot, so that's still coming back. That's actually good for a lot of people. And you will have variants in terms of storage from 128 to 512. And here's the kicker here. RAM going from 12 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes of RAM. That is a whole lot to play with. And you're thinking, well, not a lot of games might optimize this. Well, that may be true, but that means that your system should run really, really well. And that showcases the big jump we had from last year, where 12 gigs of RAM was the maximum for the Galaxy Note 10 device, and this time we're going to 16 gigabytes of RAM. So you can do more with your gaming, and you can actually basically run a very smooth system. Now, a couple of the things to mention as well. The S20 Ultra will pack a 5,000 milliamp battery. That is the biggest size battery in a Galaxy S device we've ever had. And this will be coupled with the 45 watt charger. If you remember, we tested the charger, or the 45 watt charger last year, and we saw some really great results. And they're looking at 0 to 100% in 74 minutes. Now, might not be as fast as what Oppo has thrown out there, but this is still pretty good. And I think I'm excited about this. Now, processing. This device will be powered by the Snapdragon 865 processor in some regions and the Exynos processor in others. But we do know what the Snapdragon 865 does. Now, we got to do some gaming on the Snapdragon 865, and it showcases about a 35% jump in the GPU, 25% in CPU performance, giving you better and smoother gameplay all around. So that is something to take note, and I think is going to be very, very interesting with this device. You're going to get a lot of game performance here. Plus, the GPU drivers on the 865 will be updatable, so you can actually get better performance as you move down the line. So think about games like PUBG, for instance, which optimization is always key. You can get this fully optimized on your Galaxy S20 Ultra, and I think you're going to definitely love this. Now, another thing to note, of course, with this device is the fact that it comes with a 120 Hz display. This will be the first Samsung device with a refresh rate higher than 60 Hz. And this is going to be really critical for your gameplay sessions. Imagine how good, and remember how good the Galaxy S10 was last year. We did our gaming videos on there. This thing ran really smooth, really well. But of course, having a higher refresh rate, again, matching what ASUS has with the ROG displays, this is something to note. And you know, Samsung is going to make sure this is going to be probably one of the brightest displays on the market. So your gaming sessions are going to be really, really good on the Galaxy S20 Ultra, and you're going to get some really, really good performance overall. Now, there'll also be some new camera elements to this device as well. We do know that the S20 Ultra will pack the 108 megapixel sensor from Samsung, will have a 48 megapixel sensor for the ultra wide, and will also have a periscopic and a time of flight sensor. There's a fifth sensor which we do not know about, but I'm sure that will come into play as well. So it's going to pack a lot of camera features, which include 8K recording, which of course the Snapdragon 865 supports, and from indications it's going to be locked at 8K 30 frames per second. There's going to be a director's mode. There are lots of new modes in the camera. I can't wait to try them out. I'm very excited to see what the Galaxy S20 Ultra brings to the table in terms of performance, gaming, battery life, heat temperatures, all that fun stuff. And I'll be at the event, of course, on the 11th to capture content for you guys. So let me know what games you'd like me to feature besides Call of Duty Mobile and, of course, PUBG. Now, I want to give a big shout out to concept creators, Ice Universe, OnLeaks, as well as also Max from XDA for doing all the hard work, for getting all this kind of information, which I can share to you and give you my thoughts on the Galaxy S20 Ultra in terms of gaming and what it brings to the table.